The entirety of his young life was framed by the colossal presence of a musical icon, a shadow so vast and historically significant that it threatened to eclipse his own existence before he could even utter his first coherent word. For Wolfgang Van Halen, being the son of the unparalleled guitar virtuoso Eddie Van Halen and actress Valerie Bertinelli, meant inheriting a mantle of fame, talent, and public anticipation he neither requested nor could easily shed.
Great.
His initial years were spent attempting to navigate a world that had already written his destiny, forcing him into a quiet, internal war to assert his own identity against the overwhelming legacy of his lineage, striving to be recognized as an individual artist, and not merely an echo of a legend. This intricate narrative begins in 1991, with his birth into a reality of celebrity and constant public scrutiny, a noise he was shielded from, yet constantly defined by, even before he understood the fundamental language of rock and roll. Contrary to the expected excess of a rock star's child, his home life, largely guided by his mother, Valerie, was intentionally structured and grounded, a deliberate attempt to inject normalcy into an otherwise chaotic, high-profile existence. He was afforded the space to simply be a child, unpressured to embrace the stage or the studio, a critical foundation for his eventual independence. Valerie's successful efforts ensured his upbringing felt completely normal, despite the fact that rock royalty frequently passed through their doors as casual acquaintances. Sure, in these early years, he was a curious, shy boy, more engaged with toys and cartoons than the instruments that adorned his home, seemingly oblivious to the seismic cultural weight of the Van Halen name, a name the world had already designated for him to carry. This period of innocence, however, was finite, shattering the moment he discovered a collection of his father's records, seeing the stadium crowds and the vibrant, mythic figure of his dad, holding a guitar that commanded a life of its own. A realization that transformed his father from a mere parent who taught him to ride a bike into a global hero, instantly burdening the boy with the heavy armor of expectation. From that moment forward, every chord he would eventually play, every nascent compliment, was instantaneously juxtaposed against the standard set by a historical figure, making his journey one defined by the dual nature of being both blessed and perpetually measured by a magnificent, unavoidable name. His parents, recognizing the immense psychological burden of his heritage, employed an unconventional yet effective strategy of nurturing his creativity through indirection, allowing the passion to find him organically rather than forcefully pushing him into the light. It wasn't until he was roughly 8 years old that music finally, quietly, began its takeover, initiated not by a guitar, but by a pair of drumsticks handed to him by his father, who insisted he start with the fundamental principles of rhythm, timing and discipline. Edie's logic was brilliant. He didn't want imitation. He wanted comprehension, beginning with a unique, memorable lesson where the young Wolfgang was tasked with hitting a stack of magazines in time, an eccentric method that successfully communicated the essence of drumming. The rhythmic striking soon filled their household, leading to the reward of his first small drum kit, transforming a playful pastime into a serious pursuit that consumed his time, often disappearing for hours to pound out complex beats until sheer physical exhaustion. This self-driven discipline, developed with the quiet approval of his father listening nearby, quickly led to genuine, discernible skill by the age of 9, even impressing his drumming uncle and bandmate, Alex Van Halen. Yet, despite his growing ability, the world of expectation remained abstract and distant as his parents ensured his childhood was prioritized, building in him the core virtues of humility and a quiet strength, qualities that would prove essential for navigating the unimaginable loss and unrelenting storms of fame that awaited him. The steady, unbroken rhythm he mastered on the drums would ironically become the very cadence that would carry him through his life's profound personal and professional tragedies. As Wolfgang entered his teenage years, the initial, quiet rhythm of his drumming transformed into a louder, more complex resonance, gravitating naturally toward the guitar, an instrument intrinsically linked to his family's legend and the creative DNA of his home. This shift was fueled by pure curiosity, a desire to understand the mechanics of sound and narrative, not an aspiration to replicate his father's revolutionary genius. A critical distinction, as Edie, despite his boundless talent, proved to be an instinctive player and a poor, scene-structured teacher who would simply display something unachievable and say, "Do this!" Recognizing the vast technical chasm, Wolfgang made the pivotal decision to teach himself, relentlessly studying guitar tabs of contemporary bands, like System of a Down and Blink, 182, working late into the night to forge a sound rooted in the rhythm he learned on the drums, but shaped by the contemporary angst of his generation. His goal was not to churn out fast, flashy Van Halen solos or stadium anthems, but to create something raw, modern, and intrinsically his own. A defiant artistic posture he summarized by stating that anything less would result in a shoddy Van Halen cover band. Adele, cementing a foundation of self-preservation and creative independence. This musical evolution coincided with the harsher realities of life in the public sphere, where the media perpetually prioritized his prestigious lineage over his authentic, artistic progress, or relentlessly labeling him Eddie Van Halen's son before he had a chance to define his own artistry on any stage. The year 2006 marked the ultimate convergence of his life and his father's legend, when Eddie, revitalized by his son's clear talent, invited the 15-year-old Wolfgang to join him and his uncle Alex in a jam session, a move that instantly produced a real and undeniable musical chemistry. This family moment swiftly evolved into a professional opportunity, culminating in Edie formally asking his teenage son to replace longtime bassist Michael Anthony for the Van Halen reunion tour, a decision met with immediate, predictable controversy and accusations of nepotism from the global fan base. For Wolfgang, despite his deep love and desire to support his father, the new role became a baptism by fire, placing him in the crosshairs of intense criticism, becoming, as he described, the biggest enemy of an entire demographic of established fans. He humorously agreed to the role under the condition of avoiding bass solos, a small joke that thinly veiled the intense fear of stepping into one of the world's most scrutinized bands with the weight of an already judging public. The subsequent 2007 to 2008 reunion tour alongside David Lee, Roth served as his grueling trial of legitimacy, an ordeal where every note was microscopically inspected, ultimately silencing many of the initial critics and leading to his creative contributions to the band's 2012 album. A different kind of truth. Despite proving his capabilities, the pervasive cynicism and negativity inflicted deep and lasting scars, forcing him to understand that his musical career would always be a battle for survival and recognition in his own right. The relentless pressure of the Van Halen machine eventually led to a powerful and necessary craving for genuine artistic autonomy, culminating in his 2013 decision to join Tremonti, the band, founded by Creed's Mark Tremonti, stepping out not as a famous son, but as a dedicated, working musician focused on the craft. His spontaneous recruitment, which involved learning an entire setlist overnight before immediately going on tour, solidified his reputation as a professional outside of the family sphere, leading to his contribution on 2 albums, Cauterize and Dust. However, his dual existence was tragically ruptured in October 2020, when his father's long-standing battle with cancer, first diagnosed in 2001, finally reached its end, ripping a hole through his life and plunging him into a profound, consuming grief. The pain of losing his greatest supporter and namesake was nearly overwhelming, leading to daily despair. He publicly confessed, stating he only managed to continue by channeling the certain knowledge that his father would have been really pissed off if he gave up. In the months that followed, this agonizing loss became the sole, raw material for his art, transforming every chord and melody into a necessary, cathartic dialogue with his grief, ultimately paving the path for his own independent musical identity. The culmination of this long, painful journey arrived in 2021 with the release of his solo debut album, Mammoth WVH, a title steeped in historical resonance, as Mammoth was the original name of his father's first band before the formation of Van Halen. This choice was a powerful statement, an act of honoring the past while simultaneously staking a claim on his future, fully defining his artistic space. Demonstrating his comprehensive talent, Wolfgang performed every single element on the album, the drums, bass, guitar and vocals, A demanding process he embraced, recognizing that while it added pressure, it was also the pinnacle of creatively freeing work, making the final product 100% all me. The album's lead single, Distance, a raw, emotional tribute written for his late father, instantly resonated, climbing to the #1 spot on Billboard's hard rock chart and earning him a prestigious Grammy nomination for Best Rock Song. This moment provided the first true taste of validation on his own terms, humorously noting the shared path with his father, who also didn't win a Grammy on his first try, confirming, "I guess I'm following in his footsteps." Carrying the banner of Mammoth WVH, he stepped onto the stage for his first tour as a frontman, a role that initially terrified him. Yet the moment he began to play his own music, the performance transformed into a powerful, therapeutic assertion of self. Proving he was no longer playing his father's music, but writing his own story. His personal life found new anchors in 2023, marrying photographer Andrea Elop in a ceremony that included a quiet, emotional tribute to his father with the playing of Eddie's instrumental piece, 316, a song written for Wolfgang's birth, signifying his father's permanent inclusion in his new life. That same year, he released his confident second album, Mammoth 2, again playing every instrument, noting with satisfaction that people were finally becoming fans of the music first, only later realizing the gravity of his family. His journey came full circle into the mainstream spotlight in March 2024, when he performed the iconic tapping guitar solo during Ryan Gosling's performance of I'm Just Ken at the Oscars, a surreal moment where, despite feeling out of place, the world saw him unequivocally as a musician, not a shadow. Wolfgang Van Halen's transformation is a testament to the fact that enduring greatness is not a birthright, but a journey of hard-won resilience and identity, proving that a colossal legacy can be redefined and that intense, personal grief can ultimately be forged into ultimately mental. Unique artistic triumph.